All right, so just as we worked on the puzzle piece for the last video, I'm going to show you how if you really feel like drawing an element, that you can draw one and kind of apply the same techniques that we went over and put it in your puzzle piece. So again, I have the puzzle template open. It again has these two layers. You can access them by going to Windows, Layers if you want to see this. Otherwise, don't worry about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the image that I created, and I made two just because, why not? But you can draw any kind of image you want, but you need to be really mindful, again, of like the elements being simple. You want a simple element, one that doesn't have too many details, because if you have too many details, it's going to be harder for the laser cutter to print it. So we're going to go file, and I'm opening an image that I sent myself. So I have like a little image of an eye and a little image of a book that I drew. I took a picture with my phone camera, and then I sent an email to myself, and now I have them as PNG files. It doesn't matter if they're PNG or JPEG files. I know the type just by looking right here. But what I'm doing is I'm opening it in Illustrator, because what I want to do is I'm going to image trace that. So let's open, I don't know, I feel like the book. We're going to open that one. I'm going to click open. So, you can see my beautiful drawing. So I drew this with just a Sharpie on a white piece of paper. You can't really tell because it's kind of yellowish in this picture, so that's great. But what I want to do is I want to image trace this and see how clean the lines are overall. And this is when you really want to make sure whatever drawing you do is nice and sharp, because it's going to affect your image trace. So if you're doing something really, really heavily detailed, then you might have a harder time when you image trace. I also used a Sharpie because I really wanted thicker lines. If your lines are too thin, the image trace feature sometimes doesn't see it, which can cause a problem later on. So that's why I'm using a Sharpie. So I recommend that if you do decide to do any kind of drawing, that you use either a Sharpie or you use a pen that's like slightly thicker than a standard, like a standard pen. And I definitely wouldn't just use like a mechanical pencil. You find a pen, make the lines dark enough on the page. So we have this, and what I'm going to do is I could trace it in here, but I actually just want to bring everything together. I always find that that's easier to do. So I have this selected right here. You can tell it has the like blue box around it. You can see that there's two tabs up at the top of your screen. We have my book.png, which is what I just opened, and we have our puzzle template open over here. So if you think of like when you are, going around on the internet, you get different tabs. Illustrator does the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click Control C to copy it. You can also go to Edit, Copy. You can see the hotkey right there, Control C, however you want to do that. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click into this tab, make sure I'm on layer 2, and I'm going to click Control V. And you can see that we got really close and personal with this. So I'm going to zoom out. And just for reference, you can zoom out by going to the bottom of your screen right here and zooming out by clicking down here and changing these numbers around. You can also use this little zoom tool. You can also click Control minus or plus on your keyboard and you'll zoom out. So I'm clicking Control minus right now so I can zoom out and see this. So I'm looking at that, and I'm going to scale it down a little bit. So to scale that, I just held down Shift so that when I hover over one of the corners, it looks like a little arrow. And I'm just dragging it down, and I'm going to zoom in so that I'm next to it. All right, so we have our puzzle piece. That's probably okay to start. And we're going to image trace this. Again, you need to image trace things because we want to have the laser be able to see all these lines and be able to apply them to your design. So I'm going to click Control Y. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing this so you can see what the computer sees. Control Y. So right now it's a box, and I want it to be able to see that book. So I'm getting out of this by clicking Control Y. And I'm going to go up to image trace. Again, this is selected. We can see that right here. So I'm going to go to image trace, and I'm going to click the default one by just clicking image trace. And it says that tracing may proceed slowly with a large image. That happens if you import any kind of picture, especially pictures that you take on your phone. So you can go ahead and click OK. Might take a while. Okay, so that's not terrible. You can see kind of that some of my lines are a little bit janky. It's not the end of the world, but we try to clean them up as best we can. You know, so if it looks like this, then it should be totally fine. So we have this. Again, the computer isn't seeing it yet. I'm going to show you using Control Y. It's still just seeing it as a square. So in order to have this separate, we have to click Expand, just right here. We'll click Expand. Cool. Again, I'm going to show you what the computer sees. Cool. We have lines now. That's great. So what I'm going to do is I want to get rid of this white background. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on this white background. It'll put us in isolation mode. You can see that right here. I'm going to drop down that window. You can see like all my little shapes are showing up. Make sure this background is selected. So you can see that red outline is everywhere. It's not in the center or anything. So we're going to go ahead and delete that by just clicking delete or backspace on your keyboard. And I think I have like little lines right here. And I don't want that. That's always good to see. So I'm going to click Control Y. Yeah, so I have like little points. And that can happen, especially if you do like drawings or anything. You might have these little points. And I don't want them to be there because it might mess up the print later. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm clicking and dragging so I can select both of them. I'm going to delete that because I don't want that. I'm zooming in a little, making sure I don't see any others. And at this point, I can also get rid of the white pages because that's not going to be translated either. So we're just going to delete that. I'm going to go ahead and click backspace. Click backspace. All right. At this level, you can also try to clean up things if you want. You can do that by, messing with some of the points if you feel like it. I'm going to say if you feel like it, but this is probably fine. But you can see, if I'm going to zoom in really close, you can see that there's kind of like the sharper line. If you do want to edit any of the points, you can click on this white arrow, and you can see there's like a bunch of little points, and you can double click any of them and kind of move them around. For the most part, I would say just try to kind of leave it like this as best you can. And maybe don't try putting in extra points until absolutely necessary. So anyway, we're going to go out of this isolation mode. So I'm going to go by clicking back one level, exiting isolation mode. So now I have my book. It's all one group. I'm going to scale it down a little bit more. I'm moving it over. You can see when I move things over, I have to I can't grab this box. I have to actually grab the image. Okay, so we're going to scale it down even more so that it fits comfortably on this. It doesn't look too bad. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Okay, maybe even a little bit more. Not too bad. All right, that looks all right. So now I have this for my puzzle piece. I'm just going to minimize this so you can see it. So I have my puzzle piece layer, and then I have, of course, my book layer. So this is good. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to file and save it out by clicking File, Save As, and I want to put my first and last name. So I'm going to write. Oh, you can see my last version. So I'm going to call this one clip art. Oh, not clip art. This is the illustration one. So drawing. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and save, and we are good to go. So what you're going to want to do is, you might get this pop-up window, just go ahead and click OK, that's totally fine, is you're going to want to upload this file that we just had. You're going to upload it to the topics page for the Innovation Lab, the World Religion Project topics page. That's on the senior page. You can upload it to the Dropbox link there, put in your first and last name, and there you have it. You'll soon have a puzzle piece.